Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven VC podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, business, and I will say investing from the inside out. And today I'm welcoming on the show Nelli Orlova, all the way from Valencia in Spain. Welcome to the show, Nelli.
Thank you, Belinda. Thank you so much for having me here. And by the way, I'm a fan of your podcast. I saw maybe dozens of your videos and really enjoyed the speakers there.
Nelli, you're so cool. Like, we've just been speaking. I'm not joking, everyone. We were meant to start recording 25 minutes ago. I feel like we were just like talking all the problems of the world and trying to solve all the problems of the world. But we're gonna keep this upbeat today, because I think we all need a bit of upbeat and energy at this time that we're in the world, and keeping it super present. So Nelli, how are you feeling out of 10 right now, would you say?
Out of 10, depends on what sphere of the life you mean. But if it's in general, maybe something around 7. And that's only because I identify myself, as it's popular to say, as an optimistic person.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah. But definitely what's happening all around, it's the topic of all small talks. Every call, does not matter, a call with investor or a call with a startup founder, a call with accelerator or blockchain protocol, whatever. Everyone starts with what the hell is going on, and then discussing their opinions.
Yeah, it's we'll get into that, because I think it's actually quite an interesting part of what we'll talk about, because it's like, what do you do in a world that you cannot control right now? And we are living in such uncertain times, more so than when COVID happened, because COVID just shut everything down. Nothing's necessarily shut down besides, what's happening in the Middle East and airports and things like that. But we're all now functioning, and whether we're building, scaling, we're in a job, living our lives in this world of what do we do tomorrow? And so it's really interesting, isn't it? But before we get into all of this, I wanted to share with everyone a bit about your backstory and how incredible you are. You are the CEO and founder of InMind, which is a fundraising platform connecting Web3, AI, and tech founders with investors across Europe and beyond. You founded InMind, and InMind is INN. So just so everyone knows, and I will ask you how you come up with that name. I'm all about understanding how the brand name came together. You founded it back in 2015, and you've helped build one of Europe's largest startup investor communities, giving founders practical tools, investor access, and fundraising clarity. InMind now supports startup fundraising with verified investor databases, pitch support, I love this bit, tokenomic tools and launchpad guidance. And we were just talking about tokenomic before, and I will ask you some more questions around that. You're not only the founder and CEO of InMind, but you've also got another company. So you're the founder of AlphaMind, and I love this in and alpha. And your work sits at the intersection of founder support, investor networks, and ecosystem building. You're especially focused on helping innovative teams outside traditional hubs get seen. And I know on your LinkedIn profile, you talk about Silicon Valley. It's a very well-known hub, but there are so many incredible other VC ecosystems around the world that I'm talking to, including yourself. So we need to shine a light on all the other amazing innovation hubs that are all around the world. And I think that's really important. And so, yeah, you focus on helping innovative teams outside traditional hubs get seen, funded, and backed on merit. And from what I understand, your philosophy is quite simple. Great venture ecosystems are built through access, structure, and long-term trust, not gatekeeping. But the one thing I do want to call out is you have this mantra motto, and you call it out and you say, if you've never failed, you have never tried anything new. And you must see that all the time when you're, with the startups and the founders and even your own experience. I'm going to let you choose your own adventure and start wherever you want to start in terms of, your journey, how you came to starting your companies, and why you love what you do so much, is, in terms of, working with these founders and entrepreneurs and getting them seen and heard. Over to you.
Belinda, thank you so much. You gave me back the confidence in this motto, because some people are telling, come on, you need to change it. Everyone has fancy backgrounds in LinkedIn with something self-promoting or highlighting major skills or whatever. But if we speak about this motto, I think this is the motto of whole life. And, I am advising a lot of founders, a lot of startups at their early stages, mostly about fundraising, but also GTM, marketing, product market fit, a lot of other aspects. And I usually tell them that, well, guys, maybe I can't teach you how to build $1 billion business because I never did myself, unfortunately, yet. But
Yes, never say never, Nelly. Never say never. I don't know how
indeed,
old you are, but I'm 48 and I'm looking at the stats around when you become your most successful as a woman, and I haven't even hit the age yet. So I think we get wiser as we get older. Sorry, I just wanted to
indeed.
that.
Thank you for mentioning this. Yes. But I tell them usually that, hey guys, what value I can definitely bring on the table is helping you to avoid mistakes and failures, at least the most typical ones, because I myself did almost every mistake I could, failed almost in every beginning I could in order to reach that point. And I'm sure that a lot of mistakes are still in the future to be made, but that is what we can definitely learn from, because also I was thinking a lot about those success cases that are extensively taught and being tried to replicate it in all accelerators, incubators worldwide, startup books, articles, media, etc. Like, there is a trend. A few years ago, everyone wanted to build the next Uber. Now everyone wants to build the next OpenAI or Claude or whatever else, right? And a lot of people, a lot of very smart people, they take those success cases. They really try to split it into some small parts to understand the formula and to repeat this formula.
Yeah.
How these guys started, what they did in this period, in this stage, at this moment. I should do the same. But if we look from the helicopter view, majority of those success cases are the survival mistake. Simply the survival mistake because there was a certain period of time, a certain period of founder personality, which is very important, and you can't just clone it or whatever else, right? And you can't really just blindly replicate, do the same they did and reach the same result.
No.
So it's much better, I believe, to learn on failures, on how other companies tried to do anything and why they failed. Moreover, failures are much more existent on the market. There are so many of them. But unfortunately, people don't like to talk about failures. They're hesitant. Everyone is shouting out. You open your LinkedIn feed, everyone is so
I
successful.
can't handle it. I can't handle it. You and I were talking earlier, and I was talking to you about my morning and waking up this morning just in feeling heavy. And you were like, recommendation, switch off everything for a day or two, because you did that the other day, right? And I think it's so right. I've got a couple of questions already for you. Most typical failures, I'd love to know what they are. And you also talked around this survival mistake, or you mentioned it, and that really piqued my interest as well. Can you elaborate a little bit on that in terms of what you mean by that from a startup or a founder perspective? Like, what are you seeing as the most, and especially because you said you've done it all yourself.
So you're asking what is the most typical mistake majority of tech founders are doing?
Yes.
Okay, if you do not want to specify the question, like what stage, in what perspective, like in go-to-market or whatever else, let me be...
Probably in you'll probably, no, yeah, I want to keep it general because you can then pinpoint where you see the most typical mistake. Is it at the start? Like, is it pre? Like, where do you see it happen generally?
Okay, simple example. One of the most widely used mistakes that I also did is not really thinking about marketing before even building your product.
Yes.
And that is, believe me, I think 9 out of 10 would be not exaggeration, but actually very diplomatic saying that it is so much massive. Founders love building product. And even those who have marketing background, who have something in their mind, some expertise, some skills, they are at the very early stage. They think, first I need to build at least MVP, because what should I show to the world? What should I talk about in my marketing? Nothing. I have nothing. Let me build the MVP. But when you build the MVP, then you drown down into customer feedback, whatever. Very often we see founders who spend like 6 months, 1 year, 2 years on building something, who have zero visibility, zero brand awareness, zero community, zero customers, whatever. And they are just starting. And they come to us like, okay, we have an MVP. Look, everything is working so cool. Can you help us raise money? How can we convince investors? Now we are ready. But investors will... Okay, I'm switching to another topic. Sorry. It's about
This is
fundraising.
good though. It makes because it all led us back into the most typical fails, because, like you talk about, and I think it comes back to me in terms of we get caught up in our own minds, our own like heads. We get too heady, right? And so we're like, build. I've got to keep building. I've got to prove this thing out. I've got to prove it out. And you're almost in like this, and then you got to look up, and then you're almost like, why isn't anyone buying this? Like, what's going on here? But like, no one knows anything about what you've built.
Exactly.
And so I did that, but I did the opposite. Like when I first got out of advertising, took some time out, and then decided that I was starting my own business. I literally didn't have anything, but I just knew I was starting a business, right? And I put this landing page out that really didn't say a lot besides, this huge philosophy. There was just nothing underneath it. So I had to do the opposite. I was like, I went out way too early, way too soon, without really any substance behind it. And I think that, it's interesting, right? Because you can go one way or the other in terms of, and I don't know if that's a typical fail, but that was one of I see that as like, not a fail, but just like, oh, would I do that again? No.
No, but I'm talking not about just landing page, but actually this fear that you are too early, you have nothing to talk
Yes.
about or to
Yes.
promote. It's irrelevant if you think from the perspective of why not building publicly. Every founder I know, they hate social media. And they do it only as a job when they have to post something in social media. And that is pretty normal. But, for example, social media gives you access to free early adopters, free users, and audience. Yeah, but this audience has to be built over time. It doesn't happen, unfortunately, overnight, whatever smart you are in creating content. And in this way, even before building your product and while building your product, the best scenario that nobody is doing, except few exceptions, is to start building and in parallel sharing your daily struggles with your audience in socials. Choose at least one social media and start talking about, oh, today I was struggling with my MVP. Today I had a mess in this technology. Today I figured out that maybe this is not a major problem. Can you share with me what is your thought about that? Start sharing with your audience and communicate. And this will slowly attract those people who will become the most loyal adopters and users in the future.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? Like sharing those daily struggles. You raised earlier around social media, LinkedIn, and just seeing all the shiny stuff. And it can be quite off-putting. And I'd love your thoughts on this in terms of, again, the startups and the founders, that you're working with, or supporting and investing in. And, like it is this whole, you go on there and you're like, everyone else is just killing it. They're successful. They're making millions, like... And then it's happened to me a few times and other people that I talk to. Then when you actually talk to somebody, like, oh no, I'm on my knees. I'm not, I'm nowhere near where I need to be financially or product market fit. And it's like, so why are we still today, I guess, putting this mask on and this facade that, everything's amazing? Like, why are we doing that? Like, what is it that, why? Like, for me, I'm just like, what you see is what you get. Now, have I got everything perfect when it comes to this podcast? Absolutely not. But I'm just being my most authentic and unique self. And so I'm sure you have these conversations with your, with all your, all the various, innovative teams and tech teams and founders that you're working with, because I think more than ever, we have to be authentic, especially when we have AI coming in so rapidly. And otherwise, we're just going to become a very beige world of business, a beige world of humans. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And, please understand me correctly. Even if I'm criticizing AI, I'm a big fan of it. I am
Yeah,
using
me
it on a
too.
daily basis, right? But a few days ago, I was just shouting out on LinkedIn, telling I'm so fed up. Really, I'm sick and tired of my feed. I can't read it anymore. Not only because all people try to pretend to be mega successful, super achievers, etc., but also because, first of all, even if you are not an AI expert, you have this skill developing very fast to recognize AI generated text, these patterns. Okay, long dashes is just one of them. You can easily remove it while editing, but specific text structure, specific hook, specific wordings, etc., and authentic texts with mistakes, with typos, with maybe not proper grammar, but written by real human, they become a treasure because everyone is using AI. And sorry, guys, I'm not interested to read somebody's AI texts, right? I'm not even talking about all these AI tools that on one side empower us. You and me, we are both not tech founders, yeah? So I'm a founder of tech company, but I'm not a tech person. I mean, I do not know how to code. I do not know how to build an app. And AI gives me an opportunity to play around that, to build
Yes.
my own application. And that's fascinating. But what is scary actually is that, for example, when I open my feed in Twitter, in LinkedIn, since, OpenClaw or Clawbot or whatever you call it, they changed the name, this thing, right?
Been looking at it. I haven't actually I'm in there, but I'm observing it at the moment. I haven't actually, yeah.
But what scares me out like shit is all people right now, since this OpenClaw appeared, right now, every day I see posts from various people. They're not serial founders. They're not entrepreneurs. They're just previous yesterday's advisors, mentors, marketers, whatever else. I've built a fascinating tool over the weekend that does this and solves all your problems in 1 second. It costs just $20 or $90 or whatever else it costs, right? Try it. And then they promote these tools. And for example, only this week, I had calls with 4 different founders who bought these newly built tools for fundraising outreach. It's a big problem how you reach out to investors to pitch your
Yeah.
startup.
Yeah.
And these tools are promising. We will give you fundraising outreach. We will match you with the right investors, etc. But out of these 4 founders who spent money on these tools, 3 got just error. So nothing, literally nothing, error. And 1 was matched with A16Z and Sequoia. Amazing match, life-changing. So
Yeah.
in parallel, I have a couple of founders who are building fundraising outreach tools with AI powered, and they're building it for 9 months already because it is not an easy thing. You can
No.
play around with some prototype, yes, but you cannot make a product within 1 night with just OpenClaw that will work and deliver value for end customers. And
Yeah.
there is this substitution of miracle over reality. Those guys who spend years on building right tools, who hire LM engineers, who have like 20 agents talking to each other and never actually giving good results, satisfying enough, because shit in, shit out. You need to do so many things to make it work properly. You need to do incredible job. And then from the end user perspective, you have this fancy news about new tool created over the night, and you have this tool that is still hesitant to show the full power because something is still on development after 1 year of building. It's very difficult. It complicates go-to-market and creates confusion in users' heads. Sorry, it's a pain point. That is why I was so
And
triggered.
I love your passion and energy around it, because I was going to ask you that, because, obviously, you're not, like, you invest in tech, your innovation, etc., and startups, and work with a lot of these founders. AI it's revolutionary, right? But it's, is it how different is it from when the internet was, introduced? How different is it from when the computer was introduced? I'd love, when you have these situations, when you founders come to you seeking investing, you must pretty quickly be able to see whether that's just a shit in, shit out idea where it's just being created within 24/7 through, whether it's like an OpenClaw or a ChatGPT, versus where you see something and you called out miracle or like a unicorn, and I'm not talking about a unicorn, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that, like, what do you say to those sort of founders when you see something that is very much, like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for something saying that it's a one-hit wonder, and it kind of like, this isn't going to go anywhere, because this is, for me, from an AI perspective, and I think that's why we're all a little bit, like, maybe just a little bit, like I said to you this morning, I woke up going, I'm not up to speed enough, and I was like having this meltdown myself. But I guess where I'm going with this is that there'll be a lot of businesses that don't survive, who are creating AI native companies, because they're one-hit wonders. They haven't got the substance underneath them, versus the ones that are really, putting they're really problem solving. They're putting something together that's never been done before, which takes time. Like, what do you say to the ones that come at you and, want that instant funding? They've got an instant product where it's like, it's not going to see, like, yeah, what do you say to them? What advice do you give them?
Well, that's pretty easy. Excuse me, I'm not trying to invent something because there are so many different cases, and I'm trying to replicate it to some generic answer right now. Maybe it's a wrong way to go. I will give you some examples. Yesterday, I had a call with another AI founder who is planning to raise funding right now, his first venture funding, and they are building an AI SDR for lead generation. So instead of doing it the old way, I does it for you, qualifies your leads, finds your ICP, finds your leads in the web, enriches information, and then goes and reaches out on behalf of you. So you literally do nothing. And the actual goal of AI is to generate calls. So share your Calendly and bring a lead to the call. They exist already, like, for 6 months, from the very, very early stage when they had a real prototype with limited capability. It's not an overnight, bless you. Thank you. Not an overnight success. Actually, there is no success yet. They're just generating very, very small, tiny MRR, etc. And only recently they embedded all this AI power and automation. I'm asking, okay, what is your cost structure? How much do you pay for AI tokens, for API that you are using, like ChatGPT or whatever? What is your cost structure for this user plan, for this subscription plan? And when I hear from the founder, I have no clue, or actually it's zero. So we can do any pricing, we can dump on the market because it's zero. I'm, of course, questioning what is the sanity of that. Finally, I understood that the founder just got some startup credits from Microsoft Azure, which is, this startup program. And he counts this as a zero expense because all this is currently covered by Microsoft Azure credits. However, these credits will end literally in 3 months. So this summer. And you see this misconception in the founder head, he can sell very complicated tech stack for a pretty cheap price just to onboard some first customers, because for him right now, it's kind of zero expense. But in reality, in 3 months, this model will completely collapse.
About to say, yeah, it doesn't make logical sense. Like I don't.
You see? And
Yeah.
yeah, so I do not need to tell kind of bold advice for founders. I need to talk, to ask right questions, and to make them understand what shit they are doing actually. Another
Yeah.
founder who built like within a weekend, as you asked, yeah, what do I tell to those who
Yeah.
simple rappers? There are a lot of them. And he is coming to us, look, I've built this system that your LinkedIn posting, and it has this big market. I have AI generated deck. I am ready to raise funding. And I was asking, okay, do you have an official API with LinkedIn or any relationship to LinkedIn? Because as per my knowledge, all the big industry players are not able to automate your LinkedIn posting, simple because LinkedIn always blocks any kind of attempt.
It's very tight protocol.
Sure. No worries. And he was like, yeah, but that is the beauty of my technology, because I did it with these hacks, with these programming tricks, etc., etc. And I was like, okay, now you take a generic early stage VC funder who is doing proper due diligence. How do you think, will this funder be able to back the project that is working literally on a gray zone? Because tomorrow, LinkedIn identifies your attempts, blocks you forever, and all your model collapses because it's illegal. It's in gray zone. And he was like, oh, I didn't think about it. So founders are humans. They have a lot of things they never thought about. And that is coming back to that motto. I felt so much, and I also saw so many failures that maybe it's much easier for me right now. I'm not a genius or super smart person, but it's just a concentration of experience and amount of failures I observed and mistakes I observed to spot it on pretty early.
Yeah, and then, in terms of that, when you have these conversations, do they take it on board? Like, do they then pivot? Like, are you seeing there is this, like, from a mental perspective and the ability to, like, when you fail, you can either just give up or you can pivot and if you get the feedback, take that feedback on board and then reshape or look at something differently? Or do you quite often get founders who aren't listening, that will not listen? Like, what do you see more of? Like the ability to pivot and look actually at what they're creating, building so that they can get it right?
So you described the 3 scenarios: giving up, doing pivot, or just ignoring advice, right? And I'm not sure if I'm lucky or not, but I have only 2 types of founders in my experience. And fortunately, majority of founders, they at least do an attempt to listen, to digest, and to do some homework. So to implement advice or think over. It's not obligatory like pivot, but maybe it's some significant change in their approach, some short shift. And second type, unfortunately, it's very rare, but those founders who either ignore or take it personal. Because I'm not a young girl anymore. I'm speaking with founders in pretty straightforward way, like without too much diplomacy, right? Not offending anyone's feeling, but just telling what I really think and what I really see. And fortunately, very, very few, like 1 out of 100 maybe, take it so personally that they believe you are an enemy.
It is personal though, is it? Nelli, I want to switch it up. I want to talk to you a little about women founders and women who seek funding, because quite a few people I've spoken to, including men, the stats are quite appalling from a global perspective. And, I'd love to get your thoughts on it from a female yourself. And, I've got some observations and some thoughts in terms of, obviously there's still a real imbalance, from a male to a female when it comes to seeking funding and getting the funding. But I also think as females, we're not always as confident as men at times, and we I've done it heaps. You're sense checking yourself. You're checking yourself. Oh, can I do it? Do I have the confidence to do it? Some days you feel, but there's just this constant. I've got to perfect it. Like us women sometimes we get it. Like we get like that. What are you seeing? Like what have you observed when it comes to women, and especially, with the companies that you're investing in? Are you seeing that there's a real, I guess, challenge, but also an opportunity to shift this?
Excuse me. So the question is about if whether I saw the problem, the lack of women, or what is it about?
So I guess, yeah, sorry. So do you see that as a problem as well? Do you see there's a lack of women founders? There's a lack of women. There's not enough funding going to women. And then I guess the second question is, is there an opportunity to do something about that, to shift that? Or are you not necessarily seeing that in the companies or the ecosystem that you've created? Are you seeing it quite equal?
Okay, this is a very short question that requires to be fully discussed, requires at least a week of time. But let's be short and concise. And by the way, I saw that there were not too much comments under your videos on YouTube. So guys, when you watch this video, if it will publicly be published, finally be
It will be.
published, please
Yes.
leave your opinion. What do you think about that? Very, very curious to
Yes.
get back
Agree.
and read it. Right.
Yes. Yes.
So, my opinion, first, you're absolutely right. There is not enough. It's not just not enough. For my personal taste, I kind of struggle to find female founders. So, of course, there are females who are doing marketing, and this is a typical role of women in typical tech startup team, I would say. Yeah. Majority of them are into marketing, times into BD, some rarely in sales, but founding team, I think I would be not wrong if I say that over 90% of startups, they are just males. But when we say enough and not enough, the question is for whom? I mean, I'm a woman, and my personal taste, of course, I enjoy talking to you, Belinda, to other stronger, confident women who are doing something meaningful, right? And I'm lacking this in the industry.
Mm.
There is no, at least it is my personal opinion. Don't mess up the wish to have more diverse opinions, more diverse presence of founders with the real necessity and health for the industry. I think it is more or less self-regulated. As a woman in tech, I am very often the only woman on calls, the only woman on or meetings, on sometimes even conferences, panels, etc. But I never felt that this is something discriminating, that I have more barriers. Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah. No, I don't. I'm not going in that way. For me, it's just more. I'm fascinated, I guess, from a woman's psyche as well, in terms of why isn't there more women founders? Why isn't there more, women in the VC ecosystem, in the VC space? Because more and more for me, even I only started my business 2 years ago, and I love having these conversations in the VC space, because I see myself growing into the VC ecosystem space and playing a role in it. What that completely looks like right now, I'm still working through that myself. But I just think there's a huge opportunity, because women have, you need the female and male energy to come together. I think that it's a really important, if I think about whole leadership, whole founders, I think you need both. And so I'm intrigued as to why, and understanding why is it that us women aren't necessarily thinking we're able to, found a business? Is it that is it our confidence? What is it? Like, I'm just like, for me, I'm really like, I'm not asking you to answer that. It's just something that's really started to for me to go, well, why? Well,
I think there are multiple factors that impact this situation. And don't forget also that we are talking about tech startup industry right now,
yes,
because, for
yes,
example, I'm sure that if we look at specific vertical like healthcare or beauty cosmetology startups or businesses
yeah,
around childcare, we will see much more women. Also, pets, for example. I know multiple women founders who do startups around dog care, pet
yes,
care, etc. But in tech world, if you look at any tech university or tech school where you teach coding, just check how many males, how many females are attending the
yeah.
courses.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's a good point. And yeah, and I'm glad you've pulled it back into tech, because I mean that's where I was going with it. The people that I've been talking to within the VC space, whether it's climate tech, whatever sort of tech, deep tech, it's a real challenge.
Yeah. And sorry, I was just a little bit not triggered, but I have a small allergy on all these quarter discussions, etc., etc. And remember myself, I was so much offended when I lived back in Switzerland, and one of the local pretty popular and big accelerators invited me as their mentor. And when they called and invited, and I asked, okay, what exact skill, what exact value do you want me to bring on table? The guy just said, look, we do not have enough women. And I was like, what? That is
Yeah.
the only reason you invite me?
It happened to me a couple of years ago as well. I got called from somebody asking me to help them from a new business perspective,
Mhm.
because it was all men that were pitching, and they needed a woman and I couldn't believe that I was having that actual conversation. I was just like, I was the same. What the actual, like, I was just like, are you kidding? And I'm like, so I went straight in about, well, what's the idea? What's the pitch? What's this? What's that? I just completely ignored it. But I was just like, what world are we living in? Are we kidding? I actually said to the person, so you want me as your token female? And he laughed and he said,
That was good.
yes, we do. And I said, you're unbelievable. And I said, and I just, yeah, but it was like, anyway, and yeah, it is astounding. It
I'm
still happens.
ashamed now. I was too shy, so I just rejected without explaining the reasons. I'm fascinated that you finally said what you thought. I was too young
Did and
then,
yeah, well, I
probably.
did, and I actually did the pitch, and because I said, I want to get right across your pitch, I want to get right across the brief, send it all through to me. I made all these changes to the pitch presentation. Said I want to, clear role in the presentation, et cetera, et cetera. I said, I'm not going to just be a pretty face. They were like, okay. So then I went to the
Yeah.
pitch,
Yes.
and yeah, and we won the business, because I made sure I had a clear role, and that I was, there to do my job, not just be this pretty. I just couldn't believe I was having this conversation.
Exactly. So let's use this opportunity, guys, men, boys who are watching this video, just in case if you want to be diverse, never think about these parameters as quarters and never treat women like you invite somebody to join the role because of the gender. It's just so silly, disaster, and offensive, by the way. Think about
Yeah,
skill, and that's it.
it's so true, isn't it, Nelly? Nelly, I got a couple of final questions for you, 'cause I feel like you and I could talk for a week. To be honest, we could.
My
I feel
God, the
like
time ran so fast with you, indeed.
yeah, we're in flow. This is what happens. We get into this flow. A couple of questions for you. I'm going to start with, actually, what advice do you give to founders? We were talking pre-show. It's like this. You want everything to work the way you think it's going to work, but it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? And when it comes to looking after yourself, remaining healthy, having that clear mind to be able to have the fresh perspectives as you're building your product market fit, your MVP, you go to market. You can't be exhausted. She can't be, working 24/7. Do you give them advice on how to keep themselves, I guess, fresh, like staying, fit for the marathon, if you like, or, founding a business?
Mm, it's a bit different in at least in my conversations, because indeed you are right. And by the way, this is a big problem very few people are talking about, because when you are a founder, this is not that fancy role that makes you a boss of some team and then you can make decisions on your own. You do not obey to anyone, and then you build something that you dream about. But there is another side that is usually hidden, and this is indeed taking full responsibility. Believe me, even at later stages, when the startup is already earning money, every founder will first pay for all infra, for all employees, for all team members, and whatever else is needed. And only the last thing, he will leave something for himself. Very often, I know founders who are building for years without getting any salary, just living on their own savings or whatever, and just paying for everything else around his startup. But it is not the hardest part. The hardest part is you need to take daily decisions and responsibility on these decisions without anyone guiding you, without anyone behind you. Very often also, I was fascinated when I was a mentor in YC Startup School. There were like 5 or 6 founders sharing one and the same problem. They did not have anyone to talk about their daily problems and struggles, because their
Mm.
partners, wives, girlfriends, they really were not into that. And the founders did not want to ruin relationship by just complaining about how life is tough. So they were keeping everything inside themselves, and they literally had nobody to talk
Yeah.
about, oh shit, that is the problem I'm facing right now, that is the challenge, etc., etc. Also, the founder is the person who motivates, who has to motivate everyone. This is one of the hardest parts, because you are a human. You can have down times. You can have, you can be sick. You can be tired. You can be lost, right? Maybe you do not know really where you go. You lost your way and you need some time and energy to find it back. But you need to smile on team meetings. You can't really expect that your team will motivate you. You have
Yeah.
to motivate your team, your developers, your this, yeah. And this is so much exhausting. And I can tell you more and more and more and more and more of this. I mean, the founder life is really very, very hard. But when I try to support my founders, who share the struggles and challenges with me, well, first I use my own experience and to explain them. They are not alone and not the only person in the world who faces this. Because,
Yes.
when you have some problem in your business, and I'm sure you, Belinda, faced it, you thought like, "Oh, shit, this is unsolvable problem." Okay, maybe you do not think like that, but you feel like that. It's
Oh,
you.
you think it. You think and feel it. You totally do. You're like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
You feel like there's no solve, but then all of a sudden,
yes. And
yeah.
like, okay, nobody else suffered like me. It's just like, but when you realize that it's not just another person, there are like majority of other founders came exactly through the same problems, exactly. And many of them overcame that. Then it kind of feels a bit better, a bit like, okay, I can handle it because so many people handled it already, so I can also do. So I'm not giving them some positive motivation speeches, but I tell them, look, first, you are not alone. Second, you are not the first, not the 10th, but believe me, it's just must have for every founder, literally, to have all these problems, to take at least some value out of that, learn something based on that, and then come back a little bit stronger. So don't worry, this is solvable, this is solvable, this is solvable, and just do your shit and put yourself back in the right mood.
Mm, I love it. Oh my gosh, I've actually, I feel like I've also got some great insights from you today myself, just as a founder myself, 2 years into my own business or 2.5 years in, just
I
listening to
hope
you.
so.
Yeah,
Welcome.
absolutely. And I think it's really important that we share it's not like we share all the warts and all of what it's like, because it isn't easy. It's not for the faint hearted. You really have to have thick skin. You have to have that grit. You have to have the ability to, on the days when you don't necessarily know what step to take forward, there's this ability to just take that first step. It's that continuation of, and seeking help, seeking out. But I also think that there's a big part of filling your cup up and ensuring that you have those micro moments to go for a walk with your dog. I get a coffee every morning with Marley Bob, and it's like the thing I look forward to first thing in the morning, because it gives you that fresh perspective. My final, I guess, question would be, Nelly, 47, we've been chatting for 47 minutes. I love when I get into these sorts of conversations, because we've covered a lot of ground, and a lot of great tips for the audience, and yeah, encouraging again everyone to share their thoughts, etc. But what do 2026, it's kind of it's a wild start to the year. From a tech and innovation perspective, do you have any, I guess, views, perspectives on, we've talked a little bit about AI. We talked more about it in pre-show, but do you see any, I mean, we're in a revolution right now, but I don't even know what I'm really asking here. I guess because you are in the tech, well, you're playing in in a really innovative space. What do you think is the next big thing that's going to come out in this year and beyond?
So you are asking from the investor perspective or from the perspective of entrepreneur who is seeking the ways where to build business?
You're probably investor perspective, because we haven't really gone into that. Yeah, what are you seeing?
I hope I will not disappoint you too much, but I want to say I hate predictions and forecasts like this, because mostly because when I listened to people answering such questions precisely, they always were wrong, but it's not a problem to be wrong, yeah? They never took responsibility, never even simply apologized, like, yeah, I was an idiot, sorry, no, I'm smarter, I learned on this. They just, with the same confident way, they go to the next podcast and share the next opinion. That is why I have kind of small allergy on this. But
Hey, that's great. I love that you've done that, because you don't have to answer it. I actually love that, because
but
you're
just sharing opinionated opinion. A lot of people right now telling AI is a bubble, because OpenAI has like 700 billion valuation for the new round, and then this and this and this, and this is bubble, it will explode, etc., etc. Will it explode? Won't it explode? We have no clue. Let's confess it. But what
yeah.
we know is that first, the world is changing too fast, and of course, you can't split yourself between everything that is appearing the next day. But you should realize that, well, like internet, like cryptocurrency, everyone predicted it will be dead, but you are using it on a daily basis, me too, and everyone else, yeah? Maybe the vertical, like fancy crypto startups, many of them are dead, but the crypto is staying. Same AI, yeah? It will stay with us, obviously. Once humanity took this power, felt the pleasure of having it, it will never get back to the old schoolish ways of doing things. So that's definitely a great vertical to look at precisely. But when you are looking at it as an investor, if you want to be an early stage investor, look always at how the product is solving the problems of customers, and how fast it grows from the user perspective, loyal user base, not from the valuations on the market, because that is where you can fail very easily. Valuations are just the game that will end either very badly for you as the old late comer, or just be a gamble. So yeah, AI,
Definitely.
and that's it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you called it out in terms of, you're such a straight shooter in terms of, I'm not making any predictions, I get allergic to it. Because it's true though. Like, I mean, I have people on and I'll ask them that question, not every time, but, and you get these interesting, this is what's going to happen, but we don't have any control of anything of what's going to happen next. All we can do is focus on this very moment and being present. And I think that's a really good way to conclude the show today, is to remind everyone and remind the audience that this is all that we can control right now. This very place we're in, this very moment in time. So we can choose to either look back, look forward, and worry and have regrets of what happened, what we did in the past, or what's going to happen tomorrow. But this is all we've got control over. So if we can stay here, we're going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be and we, just start all over again. Nelli, how do we find out more about In Mind? How do we find out more about Alpha Mind? How do we find out more about you?
Thank you for this opportunity, Belinda. And guys, if you want to join our ecosystem or just reach out to me to share your project, your startup, and get advisory help, just join inthemind.com. It is with double N. Important, everyone messes up. But it's very easy to remember because the name In Mind came from not I have something in mind, but innovative minds. So for me, every founder is innovative-minded person. And that is how the word came out.
I love that. Oh, thank you for answering that. I love it. Nelli, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It's been amazing. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of the day in Valencia. And yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Belinda. And I wish your podcast all the best and hope year later we will see you more popular and more demanded and bigger growth scale compared to, for example, Diary of CEO.
Yeah, well, I've got high aspirations. What do they say? Model excellence. So I'm only just starting, and you've actually given me some good tips today, believe it or not. So thank you. Thanks, Nelli.
You can always call me and ask for more. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelli. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.